Here we are again on the B1222 on the eastern side of the village of Sherburn in Elmet, having just left the village centre. We're just approaching the junction with the A162, which is a roundabout, the A162 being the bypass round Sherburn in Elmet. On leaving this road, the B1222 continues out into the flatlands of Selby area and across to the bottom of York and Escrick. There's a zone of invisibility once you leave the bypass, climbing over to the next roundabout, which is the first roundabout to an industrial estate at Sherburn in Elmet. This is to our right in the video. Road surfaces here is very good, maintained for the goods vehicles, and the road is open and it's easy to see. However, during the week there are a large number of large articulated vehicles travel this section of road, especially the piece that you're on now, as the large goods vehicle terminals are at the far end of the industrial estate. There will be a junction on our right just coming up, which is another major entrance and an area to be borne in mind. And in the distance you can see the second entrance coming up, which is the last of the industrial estate entrances. By this time now you're thinking you've got a nice road to ride on with a good open view. As soon as we pass this last entrance on our right hand side, the road narrows quite quickly, the road surface changes and we enter a series of bends. Notice in the central lane markings you've got provision for vehicles turning right, and then straight away we go into a change in the line system. As you can see on here, the road surface is starting to become a little bit more patchy. Whilst every offers a good grip, there is a change in grip and a change in surface. This often occurs on the camber of the bends. This section of road there is a fence, but you'll notice over that fence there is a large drainage ditch. This is a feature which persists the whole length of this road all the way to the village of Cawood, which is the next built up area you pass through. On the video footage the road is very rideable, looks very pleasurable. When you're actually on the machine and riding it, the road surface is broken, it does bounce around a lot and some of the cambers are adverse. So you should never be lulled into a false sense of security on this road. And indeed, as you can see, if you do leave the road and you're unlucky, you are going straight into the ditch on the right or the left, depending where it is at the time. It is a major thoroughfare from the town of Selby. There will be numerous vehicles, and as we're going to find out very shortly, there's a crossroads on here which has brought many a biker to an untimely stop. As with the next bend, the positioning towards the centre affords a very good view. You should just bearing in mind that the motorcycles coming the other way quite often will be up to that white line, equally wanting to take their section of the road. This again has been another cause of major accidents. As you can see, we're just passing one of our favourites on this road, is the agricultural vehicle, which can be found around every corner. Given the time of the year, it's some features to watch out for. We're approaching Biggin Crossroads, and as you can see we have vehicles left and right, each driver looking rapidly to find out which is going to take precedence. This is where you shouldn't get caught up in the middle. Once past the crossroads we're into a sweeping left hand bend and up over to an railway line bridge. Again, as we can see, a nice open view, but as you go onto the railway bridge it quite quickly becomes restricted because of the foliage at either side. The road surface is good. Speeds will be maintained quite easily, and again this road is a little bit misleading. We can see a nice view, it's opening out again and away you go, and right at the end of this piece is a sharp right hand bend with a bad camber and a poor road surface. And note the drainage ditch has changed position, it will now be on your left. You are advised to slow, as you can see, with good reason. Note the change in tarmac, note the poor road surface. This bend possibly appears quite wide open. It is tight. You'll notice also on this piece of footage you've got a polished centre of the road surface where the vehicles have polished it dry. You should be very cautious on wet days because there's very little grip afforded, especially on the bends. Positioning here towards the central white line for the next left hand bend, again offering you a more open view of the road ahead. Another feature on this road is you'll often find there's a junction on a bend, as in this case. These afforded access to the old mines, which are still used as industrial establishments, and you will get vehicles of large size emerging without reason. Notice again the repeated word slow on the road. Here we have a left-hand bend going into a right-hand bend. You can just see on the left-hand side you think you're approaching fields, when actually there's a 10-foot drainage ditch on your left-hand side. There's no two ways about it. If you do lose control here through a fault of your own or somebody else's, you're going to get seriously hurt or worse. Just coming up to the village of Carewood ahead of us, there is a recycling site on your left-hand side. Members of the public from the village do use this and often emerge onto the road without looking. Another favourite place for bikes to be caught out. Carewood village is subject to a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. It also has a series of chicanes at the start of it to control traffic flow. Please be careful with the vehicles coming the other way. Some of them don't tend to adhere to the priorities. And whilst ever on occasions you might have the right of way, you may be confronted by the motorist on four wheels who doesn't want to give. At the end of this short straight stretch near entering the village there's a little roundabout. Not particularly well marked and not a particularly good road surface. Please resist the temptation to go straight across it, but be careful when going round it. Once you're past it, there are a set of speed humps in the centre of the village of Carewood. Without any doubt, they are quite severe. This is the main street through Carewood, which is very, very narrow. Still very old-fashioned, with a very small footpath on either side. There isn't a lot of room, and you will be vulnerable on a motorcycle if you're faced with a large car or agricultural machine, as we've seen in the village. Centre of the traffic lights. We're going to be going straight on out over the old toll bridge. Again, the road narrows here and you've got some quite severe undulations onto the bridge, and unusually you'll find the old bridge office and control tower is actually in your way when travelling in this direction. Please be mindful while you're concentrating on passing this. As you come off the bridge there's a sharp left-hand bend. This one is definitely one to watch for vehicles cutting the corner, coming the other way. Position well to the left for the right-hander gives you an open view of the road ahead, which is a short straight of about half a mile. It's completely featureless. Don't be tempted here to be lulled into the sense of false security, the fact that this is the way the road's going to be, because waiting for you at the end is a sharp left-hand bend which begins another section of road. This next section is just a series of lefts and rights and undulations. More often than not, it's car drivers that get caught out at this one. They actually can't get around it and go up the farm track directly opposite you. That's your warning sign. And you're again told slow. Watch the road surface on the inside of this curve. It's very unsettling and can easily take a motorcyclist off. The bends on this section of road are very pleasurable, lovely riding, what every motorcyclist wants to see and feel. You also feel you've got a very open view on this section of road. The hedge and the banking, however, is just high enough to hide another motorcycle who may also be doing the same thing from the opposite direction. As I've previously said, it is a lovely piece of road to enjoy, but it's also one where somebody else may come into conflict with you because they're doing the same thing. Especially on this next section round past the old farm buildings, the road does physically narrow. And on the right-hander which is coming up, the road surface has and occasionally does get pocked with marks and bumps, in addition to which there's also mud left on the road by the agricultural vehicles. As you've probably noticed already, having watched the video, you keep seeing this repeated signage and then slow and then slow. Every single one of these bends can be ridden properly and safely, but every single one of them is tight and leads into another one, or a feature which may mislead you. And just like magic, we have one of those goods vehicles going down the road, nice and steadily, which may cause you some problems. Again, here you can see there is mud in the centre of the road, and you can also see the patching. Any one of these features can give you a very unsettling experience and at worst bring you off, especially when you consider you're now seeing them in the location of bends. Shortly you're going to come up to the village of Stillingfleet, which is a restricted zone.